Welcome to White Space, the last White Space of the year, and we wish you season's greetings, happy Christmas, and enjoy the holiday break, because we certainly will.
Oh, we absolutely are going to love it.
Right, but things don't stop. We do have breaking news even today.
Yes.
We've heard that Glasgow City Council is having a spot of bother. On Tuesday, we understand, the City's Council's data centre stopped working, and the fault appears to be to do with air conditioning units and also fire suppression.
Yeah, but you've actually talked to the council, and they're just not prepared to say anything at the moment, aren't
They're preparing their statements.
Right.
They did say they would get back to me by phone because their email system isn't working.
Oh goodness! Oh, that must be affecting other services as well in Glasgow, then, isn't it?
Yeah. The thing they're very keen to stress is that City Council workers will be paid, and they say that services affecting the needy won't be affected.
What services affecting Christmas?
Oh no, are the Christmas lights off?
Yeah, things like that, absolutely.
We don't know. Some schools couldn't get into their servers apparently.
I can hear the cheering from here, particularly from Govan. My sister's children are. Hey! But this is interesting. Isn't this the same sort of failure as we were, as you were writing about in Southeast Asia earlier on during the year?
Well, yes. We did have a very exciting and interesting presentation there on the causes of failure. It made it a cover feature in the magazine at one stage, and the point being of the whole presentation from Ed and Seth was that. When a data centre fails, you don't hear the details. In other industries, when there is a failure, the causes get published, whereas in our industry, they don't very often. It's tantalising, but one of the fault scenarios that Ed described sounds very much like this. If your fire suppression releases a flood of inert gas into the data centre to put out any fires, prevent fires spreading. This has to happen very quickly, and the problem is when it happens quickly, that creates a shockwave. Right. So it's possible for this to create enough vibration to
literally knock out the hard drive. Yeah,
that's right. To cause the hard drive heads to crash, and it's like dropping your laptop. It's that kind of fault.
Right.
And this fault has happened multiple times, and because it's not published, a lot of data centres are designed with the fire suppression nozzles too close to the storage units.
Right.
We are not saying this is what's happened in Glasgow, because there will be a full investigation of it. And but whatever the fault is in Glasgow, it's a fair bet that it's happened somewhere else before. We've now had one whole year of the new look DatacenterDynamics magazine. This was the first issue back in February.
Because it seems such a long time ago.
There are 10 of them, and we thought if we want to do a roundup of the year, what could be better than leafing through these?
Yeah.
Our very first news story was about Switch planning a $1 billion super nap in Reno, Nevada. Yes. I mean, that's one of the biggest data centres around. It's been opened, I understand, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's right. It's been opened, and Switch is already planning its next big facility, which is a story we'll come back to. Other than that, this issue focused on open.
Right. This one, and next spectacular cover.
Yes. What happened? How did that cover come about?
Well, we were given the inside track from Cole Crawford about Vapor, and the idea, he got the idea, he's a skydiver, but when the weather's inclement, in Silicon Valley they skydive in these wind tunnel type things. It was an inverted wind tunnel. So he got the whole idea when he was, skydiving upside down, spinning around. However, when he sent the original pic, we thought this would be a great photograph to use. But when he sent the original photograph, it was inside a wind tunnel, and it didn't look very exciting. So it's been a couple of days before publication, I spoke to him and said, look, that picture's not good enough. And he went out and hired an aerial photographer who jumped out of the plane with him and took the cover picture we have here,
right.
which is.
So we had a mid-air photo shoot. Yeah.
Yes, the next issue we've had was all about events, and I mean, I was a stay-at-home journalist that month, but Bill and Peter, you guys went around quite a bit, right?
I mean, events. There were 23 DCD events during the year, but these were two big ones that kicked off in that month. One was in Germany, CeBIT, and the other was in New York.
Yeah.
How was New York, Bill?
New York was great. It was the second or third event I'd been to at DCD, and it was the first one where we sort of reformed it and restaged it in a big, massive hotel in New York, and it was fantastic because the atmosphere was great. And it was also what we really do well, which is get the community together, and there was a real community feel to it.
Okay, yeah. Over in Germany, at CeBIT, we took over an entire hall of the world's biggest tech trade show, and we had lots of passing trade. The idea was people are going through this hall and they'll find out about data centers. So it was a slightly different feel, but we had lots of good presentations. We had Kushagra Vaid of Microsoft talked about Open Compute's plan to do away with the uninterruptible power supply to replace it with distributed batteries. And we had even more sort of radical idea from Carnot of France, which wants to actually break whole data centres up and turn them into heaters in people's rooms.
Fantastic idea.
Yeah, that was good. And we saw an eclipse. There was an eclipse of the sun, and it happened during the day, during a nice sunny day in Germany, so we were able to step outside of the hall and look at it. We covered cooling in summer, of course, and the issue in data centres is that to use less energy in cooling them down, you have to let them get warmer. Right. It's a kind of equation that people are struggling to get their heads around. And hopefully this issue did a little bit of education on that, with a lot of help from our friend Ian Bitterlin, who spoke to me at length as I was preparing the bit for that. It was a sign of the times in the summer about when Google announced plans for a data centre in, of all places, a disused coal-fired power station. Which, it shows maybe a shift in energy production. Although in this case, I think the mix there has shifted towards nuclear because there's a new nuclear plant being built nearby.
I was going to say that's quite symbolic, but more than symbolic, isn't it?
We recently had a debate of how green is nuclear, right? And sort of like low carbon, but a lot of people are still quite resistant to the idea. So.
Yeah, technically it's not renewable as it uses fuel, but it uses minute quantities of fuel and doesn't release extra greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
So, yeah, indeed. That came up again later, as we shall see. September, we looked at the Internet of Things. The issue with the Internet of Things is this. It's presented as the basis of the next surge in tech development. Arguably, some people say the next tech bubble, as startups instrument everything. They get IP-enabled devices on absolutely everything you've got, and then by gathering this information into data centres, it can then be used to make things more efficient. The other angle is that data centres themselves are an early proponent of the Internet of Things. They didn't refer to it as such, but efforts like DSIM, which have been plugging away, trying to get instrumentation into every part of the data center so that you can monitor exactly the temperature, the power use of everything you've got there, is basically the Internet of Things, a specialised implementation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, companies like Refcode, right, they built an entire business on it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Max, in October, we reported on developments in Russia.
Yes, and I think so. Secondly, in November, there have been shifts in data protection around the world, most notably in Russia, where all the data of Russian citizens must, from September, be stored on the Russian soil, which is very interesting and is giving, hopefully, like a shot in the arm to the Russian data center development. Seriously, people on the ground are saying it's very, very good for the business if you can get the money, because Russia is still obviously, it was put in the corner and made example of, and it's very hard to get investment into the country right now, and none of the Western banks want to deal there. So if you can get investment, it's a fantastic market. But good luck. And another thing that happened, that's a little bit later, but yes, Europe has cancelled the Safe Harbor Agreement. The Safe Harbor Agreement was always a terrible, terrible idea.
It was like the Emperor's New Clothes. It never really worked, and yet it took the world a long while to admit this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the European Union, is a huge, complex, bureaucratic organization, and people have been carrying research, and they've kept telling them that actually the list you have the companies there don't actually have privacy policies. We're not even talking about some advanced forms of data protection. We were in limbo for a little bit, but now it seems like European Data Protection Directive and regulation, both of them actually, are going to be coming in next year, and member states will have 2 years to put them into practice. And that's a very, very strict set of rules, which are legally binding, and which are going to basically cause a lot of headache to the US companies.
Bitcoin, is it worth saying a little about Bitcoin? Yeah. What's been going on with Bitcoin? I thought Bitcoin was going to go away when the price crashed.
Yes, but now it's picking up again, and actually the Chinese are now responsible for something like 80% of the trades, when they discovered that they couldn't believe it. So there's this sort of digital commodity that doesn't even exist, that you can buy and sell, and nobody regulates it. It was bonanza.
So Bitcoin continues.
Absolutely.
And as well as being a massive waste of electricity and contributing to global warming by generating less and less for every watt because of the increased competition and the way the blockchain technology works, it's pushing technology forward a little, so that Bitcoin companies buy innovative cooling systems and develop them. So it's not all bad. Okay. Now we've finally got to the December issue. We're running nearly up to date here. Yes, the lead news in this issue, again, was Switch, and again on tax relief. There's an iconic building in Michigan, the Steelcase Pyramid, that used to be owned by a furniture company called Steelcase, and has been derelict and empty for a while, and now has Switch wanting to build an even bigger data center there. But they demanded a massive tax rebate for this in exchange for a facility that's going to cost $5 billion. And then things got complicated. Switch is asking for rebates in 3 taxes: sales tax, property tax, and use tax. And the state legislature had to approve these, or Switch would take its business elsewhere. That's how it was presented, and it had to happen before the end of the political season, which happened just this week, and it went right to the wire, and eventually they voted in favour of the concessions. And Switch is now planning to build its data center there.
Me personally, I want to see that data center built. I've read about the building and I absolutely love the idea. It's got a giant pendulum swinging in the atrium, and I just like it.
Yes. It looks good. We had a lot of interest in a Russian data center. And Max dug out the news on that one, didn't you?
Yes, so basically Russians have quite a few, there's like 30-something nuclear reactors, and one of them is in the city called Kalinin, and they decided to dump a data center right on top of it, because you guys, it's very reliable power source. If there's a failure, well, you're in trouble, and it's not just the power. So they are building an 80 megawatt data center on top of the Kalinin nuclear plant, which is going to be fed directly from the power station, and is going to get cheaper preferential rates, and obviously no transmission losses in between those two. And it's going to be aimed mainly at foreign companies. So the Russian nuclear agency is going to take part of it. I think it's like 10 or 20%, and the rest of it is going to be just collocation up for grabs.
So Russian nuclear power is waiting to help you comply with the Russian data laws. There's so much more in this December issue. We have an article on telcos, how the telcos are all selling off their data centres.
Very, very interesting.
Even though they spent years building up these portfolios, they've now decided that data centre providers can run them better, so they're selling them off. We've had an article on the efforts of the US government to reduce the number of data centres. The trouble is, the more it closes, the more
it finds.
So it now has thousands more data centres than when it started the project, even though it has actually closed thousands down. But lastly, the thing you need to know in this December issue is there's a puzzle. Yes, I've got a Santa hat on in it. That's irrelevant to this puzzle. Can you find a Santa in the issue? It's carefully hidden. You'll have trouble finding it, we guarantee it. See how you do? It's hidden there for you to find. But still, that's not all. These are our English language magazines. DatacenterDynamics is also available in Spanish.
Yes, loads of original stuff there. It's relevant to the local markets. So, if you're in the area, pick them up.
Thank you, and have a happy Christmas.
Have a wonderful time.